Hello everyone, we're from group number 1 and we are going to present about sociolinguistic material which is language planning and reform. But before that, we are going to introduce ourselves first. So, my name is Jessica Hurley.
My name is Muhammad Fauzan.
And my name is Ahmad Aziz.
Alright, so for the contents of this presentation will be divided into 3. There are introduction, discussion, and conclusion. The first one is introduction. Perhaps you are confused for the meaning of language planning and reform. So let me just explain it to you. For the definition of language planning, it involves systematic efforts to influence language usage and policies, while language reform, it focuses on modifying linguistic structures and practices. As for the relevance, it is crucial in diverse, multilingual societies amid changing social, cultural, and technological landscapes. There are some issues that we found, such as influencing language development, standardization, and increasing diversity. There are obstacles as well. There are language policy challenges, linguistic gaps, and resistance to change. So the next one is discussion. Language planning will be explained by Ahmad Aziz, and for the language reform will be explained by Muhammad Fauzan.
So today I'm going to explain or present the first material, that is language planning. What is language planning? Language planning is the process of making decisions about how a language will be used in particular area or by a specific group of people. It involves identifying the needs of community or group, developing language policies, putting those policies into action, and then evaluating how well they are working. It helps us think about which language is used for important things like education, government, and media. Language planning also considers how to support different language in a community. Language planning process. The first one is identify needs. First, we need to understand the needs of people who use the language. We, or government, or the language planner must think about things like who speak the language, where they live, and what they need the language for. For example, there's a situation that government found a small group filled with disabilities people, and they are difficulties to communicate, so the government have to make like a program to help them communicate well. So they have to build they have to plan how they can use the language to communicate with each other. And then the second is policy development. After understanding the needs, we, or language planner, create plans or policies to meet those needs. This could include things like language education program or making sure government documents are available in different languages. The third is policy implementation. Next, the language planner put the plans into action. It means making sure that policies that was developed are being used in a real life. For example, if they made a policy to teach a minority language in school, we need to make sure that schools are doing that. Fourth is evaluation. Once the policies are in place, language planner check to see if they are working. Are people benefiting from the changes? Are there any problems that need to be fixed? They have to take a look on that. So language planning is about deciding how to use language in a community. It involves understanding what people need when it comes to language. creating plans to meet those needs, putting those plans into action, checking if they are working well, and making changes if needed. It's like making a roadmap for how language should be used and supported in a community. So that's a good example, one example of successful language planning. That is in Canada. Canada has two official languages. Those are English and French, but also recognize many other languages spoken by minority communities. The success of multilingual policies in Canada can be seen from the implementation process, which has created an inclusive society and support equality for all speakers. Yeah, Canada made a program for the community of the Canada. They made another language except English and French and the other language. Even though they made the official language like English and French, they don't obligate the people to use that language. I mean the minority can use the language that they already has. Like when people go to Canada, and for example Indonesian people go to Canada and then they live there, they don't obligate to use the English or French. They won't get punishment if they don't use that. The next content is factor influencing language planning. Language planning is influenced by different factors, like the first one is political and legal factors, including the laws and rules that protect the right of language spoken by smaller group in a country. Second is social and economic factors, like how well people can read and write, how much education they have, and their ability to gather resources they need to use the language. The third is culture factors, which consider how important it is to keep culture, tradition, and different language alive in a society. The fourth is technological factors, which look at how new technology like computers and the internet can affect the way people use language. Language planning action, it can involve several activities. Those are: 1. Creating language policies that protect the right of minority language and ensure fairness of all languages. Second, developing a language teaching plans that is useful and suitable for the community's need. Okay, the third is carrying out training and awareness program to emphasize the significance of using multiple language and embracing diverse culture. The fourth is creating dictionaries, teaching tools, and language learning materials. Maybe that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Understand to language reform. Language reform refers to deliberate change in language carried out with the aim of increasing and improving language use in society. In this context, language reform includes change in grammar, spelling, vocabulary, writing style, and other aspects of the language that are deemed necessary to keep pace with pattern of social, political, cultural, and technological development. And the next, language reform can emerge as a response to the needs and challenges faced by society. This can occur in the context of political change, such as regime change or change in government system. Language reform can also be triggered by social changes, such as the emergence of popular culture or advance in communication technology. The main goal of language reform to make language more relevant, efficient, and reflective of society values and needs. And the next, language reform is a type of language planning. Language reforms make big changes to a language. These changes are usually done to make a language simpler to understand or to write. Sometimes change foreign part of the language or to get rid of parts of the language that are not grammatical. Simplification makes the language easier to use. It tries to regularize spelling, vocabulary, and grammar. Purification makes the language similar to a version of language that people think is more pure. The importance of language reform. Language reforms includes effort to change the structure, vocabulary, grammar, and use of language to adapt to the needs of the times. This is necessary to maintain the relevance of language in expressing, to maintain the relevance of language cultural needs that continue to develop. Apart from that, language reform can also ensure that the language remains an effective means of communication and is easily understood by its speakers. One of the importance of language reform is in the context of language equality. Appropriately reformed language can ensure that every group of society has equal access to information, education, and public service. Language reform can also provide opportunities to strengthen minority languages and support multilingualism, creating an inclusive atmosphere in society. And the next, benefits of language reform. Language reform has several benefits, such as the first, improved readability and comprehension. Language reform can make language use more consistent, easier to understand, and in accordance with applicable rules. And the second, communication efficiency. Through language reform, we can create uniformity in language use in society, thereby facilitating communication between individuals, groups, and institutions. And the third, cultural development. Language reform can also influence the cultural development of society. By updating the language, society can accommodate different cultural values and trends. And the next, challenge in carrying out language reform. Also important, language reform also face a number of challenges that need to be overcome. One of them is resistance to language change. Some people tend to maintain linguistic tradition and resist in innovation for sentimental reason or cultural inertia. Another challenge is achieving consensus among stakeholders regarding the direction to take in language reforms. This is especially complex in multilingual societies where competing languages and linguistic identities can complete the reform process. Types of language reforms. The first, there is grammatical reforms. These reforms can involve the simplification of grammatical structure, including the elimination of complex, redundant rules. The aim is to make it easier to understand and use language in everyday life. And the second, there is spelling reform. The reform is related to changing spelling rules, whether in letter choice, use of diphthongs, or punctuation. The goal is to eliminate inconsistencies or difficulties in spelling and encourage more consistent and understandable usage. And the third, there is vocabulary reform. Vocabulary reforms involves changing the word use in the language, such as the introduction of new terms or simplification of the vocabulary. This reform can be related to technological aspects, economic needs, or development in social concept. And the last, there is writing style reform. Writing style reform focus on change in writing rules, including words separation, use of punctuation, and use of capital letters. The goal is to correct common errors, make the text easier to read and understand, and keep up with more modern writing trends.
To sum up, language planning and language reform are two sides of the coin necessary to create and maintain dynamic linguistic conditions. Through planning, languages can be guided and developed with a clear direction, while through reform, languages can remain alive and relevant in the ongoing changes in society. The synergy between the two allows the creation of a language system that is responsive, inclusive, and adaptive in facing the challenges and needs of the times. Alright, this presentation of ours has finally come to an end. Thank you everyone for watching for our presentation. We hope you are satisfied on what we present. Our apologies for the mistakes that we made. Thank you and have a great day.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you very much.